The Dayton City Commission now come to order. Please rise for the invocation this evening given by Commissioner Turner-Sloss and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mayor. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you with bowed heads and humble hearts. We thank you for this day. We ask that you continue to keep us, guide us. Lord, help us to do your will. Bless us with discernment, wisdom, and understanding. In your holy name, amen.
Amen.
With allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Ms. Blackshear, may I have the roll call, please?
Mayor Mims.
Aye.
Commissioner Joseph.
Aye.
Shaw.
Aye.
Fairchild. Turner-Sloss.
Aye.
Mayor, I've been advised that Commissioner Fairchild will be arriving late. Or
Okay. Or
he
maybe
might
not at all.
not be here, but for the record.
Okay. All right, may I have a motion then to approve the minutes from the August 27th meeting?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Okay, it's been probably moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the August 27th meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Ms. Blackshear, any communications or petitions?
There are none, Your Honor.
Okay, I do have a couple of presentations this evening. So I'd first like to call Ms. Enos Adula. I'm not going to try to pronounce the other part of that name to embarrass myself or anyone else. She will be coming to the podium to talk about the sister city. She's a coordinator for Shafiq, and to talk about some of the proclamations that she's about to receive from this city commission. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. I'm Inas Abdel Fattah. I'm a member of Sister City relationship between Salfit and Dayton. I'm so pleased to be here with you, and thank you for so much for having me today and for allowing me the opportunity to be here in Dayton for our first in-person meeting. I'm now serving as head of international and public relations and media unit at Salfit Governorate, and looking forward for more mutual work and cooperation in the future. Thank you so much.
Okay, and first of all, I'd like to give my expressions of congratulations and thank you for being here, and thank you so much for the great conversation we had with your leader back at home. And thank you for the assistant, also Youssef. Great having the opportunity to have that conversation and to learn how to pause and not give a long statement because it has to be interpreted, okay? And then wait my turn to talk again. So again, thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's my honor. Thank you.
Yes, proclamation, please.
Whereas the sister city relationship between Dayton, Ohio and the Salfit Governorate Palestine serves to promote global goodwill, respect, and mutual cooperation through cultural, educational, and economic exchanges. And whereas Ines Abdullah Abdelfattah is in her dual capacity as the head of the International and Public Relations and Media Unit and the Dayton Salfit Sister City Coordinator for the Salfit Governorate, has provided exemplary leadership and commitment to this partnership. And whereas Ms. Abdel Fattah has worked tirelessly to foster understanding and friendship between our communities, and her efforts have been integral to the vitality of our sister city relationship. And whereas, in recognition of her outstanding dedication, the City of Dayton, Ohio extends a warm welcome to Ms. Adafah for her 5-day visit in September 2025. And whereas her visit will serve to further strengthen the bonds between Dayton and Salfit, creating new opportunities for citizens of both communities to connect and cooperate. And whereas it is fitting and appropriate to formally recognize individuals whose exceptional contributions have profoundly strengthened the ties that bind our two cities. Now, therefore, I, Jeffrey J. Mims, Jr., Mayor of the City of Dayton, Ohio, on behalf of the Commission and all of its citizens, do hereby express our deepest gratitude and honors Enes Abdelfaha for her exemplary service and outstanding dedication to the Dayton-Southeast Sister City relationship. We warmly welcome her to our city. And it is signed by the mayor and
Thank
fixed
you.
with the
Thank you.
city
Thank you
seal.
so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. You know, if we'll just recap, I know one of the concerns or topics that you had a discussion with some of the leaders here in the city of Dayton with the Water Resource Group, with the Central State University, as well as Sinclair, and also some of the city officials talking about the water situation that you have in your country because of the waste that's been sometimes deposited in places where you would normally drink water. So finding out how you could find better ways to address those concerns is very important for you. So again, thank you for visiting those two places as well. Okay, thank you. So next, I'd like to have Ms. Jasmine Jones, who's attorney for Frost Brown Tie, to the podium to present a semi-annual independent accountability audit as far as the city of Dayton, that report. So welcome, good evening to you.
Good evening. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, this is the second semi-annual report of the Independent Accountability Auditor for 2025. This report will cover the IAA activities from January 1st through June 30th of this year. In review, the duties of the Independent Accountability Auditor include reviewing Dayton Police Department misconduct complaints, auditing the complaint process, producing reports such as this, and recommending changes and improvements to policy, procedure, and training. We also participate in the Community Appeals Board hearings, and we work with the Policy Review Committee of the Police Department. So first, I want to start with a review of the misconduct complaints from January 1st through June 30th. Just for reference, there are two types of citizen-generated complaints. There are complaint receipts, and these are complaints that can be resolved relatively quickly, either to the satisfaction of the complainant or from a cursory investigation it is clear that the complaint is unfounded or it's not relevant to the Dayton Police Department or it is a proper execution of police authority. Then you have the citizen complaint, and this is a complaint that requires more than a cursory investigation by the supervisor. So from January 1st through June 30th, there were 89 specific allegations that came from 32 different events. So that could mean that in one traffic stop, there could have been several allegations made against one officer or allegations made against multiple officers. So in the next few slides, we will be looking at these specific complaints, but it is worth noting there were only 32 incidents. So here you can see the citizen-generated complaints over time, and with each year, we're only looking at January 1st through June 30th. So there has been a reduction in the amount of complaints that the police department has received, slightly less than last year, but significantly less than the year before. You can also see there was a slight increase in the number of citizen complaints in the first half of this year since last year, but it is worth noting that 32 of these 50 complaints did come from one incident. And this incident is under review. Next, we will look at some of the outcomes, but first I just want to provide reference to the different findings. A complaint can be exonerated, and that's when the act did occur, but it was justified and proper. It could be sustained. That means that the act did occur and it was not justified, proper, or lawful. It can be unfounded. That means that there was no evidence that the allegation took place, or it could be not sustained, where there's insufficient evidence to prove or disprove the allegation. So looking at just citizen complaints, not complaint receipts from January 1st through June 30th, there were 26 that were unfounded, 20 that were exonerated, 0 were not sustained, 3 were sustained, and 1 investigation is still in progress. This is consistent with the results from last year, but because there was a lot that was determined to be unfounded, we decided to look at that more closely. There were 26 complaints that were determined to be unfounded by the police department from 5 different events. The complaints were alleged against 11 different officers, and the allegations were for damaged property, discourtesy and disrespect, harassment, violation of law, and violation of policy. When we reviewed this, we determined that 11 out of the 26 were also unfounded. We determined that 1 was not sustained, so we did not believe that we had enough evidence to prove or disprove the allegations. 2 were determined to be exonerated, where the allegation did occur, but it was justified and proper and lawful. And 12 out of the complaints are under review, but we determined that they are not unfounded because there was some sort of evidence that supported the allegation. And this is not to say that whatever occurred was not justified, it's just there was some evidence. And it's also worth noting that 10 of these complaints came from 1 incident and 2 complaints came from another incident. We also looked at the sustained citizen complaints. There were 3 that originated from 2 different events. All 3 complaints were alleged against 3 different officers, and the allegations were for discourtesy and disrespect and violation of policy. When we reviewed these citizen complaints, we did look at the time spent on the investigation. Investigations should be concluded within 90 days, and in all of these investigations, they happened in less than 90 days. And then the discipline issued in all of these events were training memos, and the IAA agreed with the discipline that was issued. Now for a few reports. This just shows the time that the IAA spent on different activities. Given the transition in the beginning of the year, a lot of time was spent onboarding, training, and also spending time speaking with city staff to get a better understanding of the needs, the concerns, what's working, what's not working, policies and procedures. So moving forward, there will be a shift in how our time is spent, but we did still spend time participating in community appeal boards, hearings, auditing, and investigating. In our last semi-annual report, I did say that part of our plan for this year would to be reviewing the 2024 complaint receipts to see if they were classified properly. We did review all 95 of these complaint receipts. For 3 of these complaint receipts, we were unable to make a determination because we were missing some piece of the evidence, so there might have been a video that was missing. But we were able to review the rest, and we determined that 3 out of these 95 should have been classified as citizen complaints rather than complaint receipts. And these 3 arose from 2 different events that were related to unprofessionalism, failure to de-escalate, and discourtesy and disrespect. We also included reasons for why these complaints were classified as complaint receipts, and we felt that it was important to provide context so that when we're looking at the number of complaints received, we have an understanding that not all complaints received are actually based on misconduct from our police officers. So there were some complaints that were allegations against neighbors or allegations against the court or other police departments. There were some complaints that were referred to mediation. There were some complaints that were withdrawn, or the person who submitted the complaint didn't leave any contact information, so the police department could not call them back to investigate more. There were also duplicate complaints, and then others were, it was very clear that the complaint was unfounded or was a proper execution of police authority. One of the duties of the IAA is also to review critical incidents, and critical incidents include officer-involved shootings, traffic collisions involving police officers that result in death or serious bodily injury to another person, use of force resulting in death or serious bodily injury to another person, and deaths while an arrestee or detainee are in the care of the police department. From January 1st to June 30th, we were notified of 1 critical incident. This incident is under investigation, so there is nothing for the IAA to review at this time. And lastly, we looked at the citizen complaint investigation timeline. As mentioned, these investigations should take place within 90 days unless there is an extension. And in most cases, they did take place within 90 days. There was only one we found that took 144 days. But when we looked into it, it looked like there was a large gap in time from when the complaint was submitted to when the investigator actually received the complaint. So this could have been a clerical issue, and this is something that's under review to make sure that there's something that does, whether or not something needs to be addressed. And then, like I said, there's one investigation that's still in progress. So over the past few months, we have made a few observations. First, the complaint process addresses law and policy violations. It doesn't formally address practices or acts that don't align with best practices or discretionary acts that are permissible but may unnecessarily cause harm. So because of this, there may be unmet expectations from the community as well as seemingly unresolved complaints. Our second observation is that the current standardized correspondence with complainants may give the appearance of inaction and indifference due to the tone and the selected content included in the correspondence. For example, if someone submits a complaint, they may receive a citizen letter that says the police department investigated the complaint and they did not find a policy violation, but it doesn't show that the police department actually took time to consider the complaint and actually took steps towards addressing what may have come up. So the person who submitted the complaint may feel like their complaint was ignored even though it was not. Our third observation is that the standard for discourtesy and disrespect may vary. From what we were able to review, it was very clear that cursing and yelling is disrespectful and discourteous, but for other conduct, that line of when conduct becomes discourteous and disrespectful may not be clear. And then lastly, in most of the interactions that we reviewed, respectful and lawful police conduct was displayed. And this is important to recognize and acknowledge. So even though there may be room for improvement, we can see that there has been progress made towards police reform efforts in the city. The IAA does not have any formal policy recommendations at this time, given that we spent a lot of the time gathering information. However, based on our observations, we do have recommendations for next steps. So first, we recommend conducting a survey and gathering feedback from those who are involved in the complaint process, also from citizens who have gone through the process, to see if there are gaps that need to be filled and how to best fill those gaps. Like I said, one of the observations is that some practices may need to be adjusted, or there are some discretionary acts that do lead to harm. So it would be helpful to get feedback to see if this current process needs to be adjusted at all. The second recommendation is to review and evaluate the standardized correspondence that complainants receive. We made this recommendation because perception matters, and people can only work with the information that they have. So there may be an opportunity to improve communications in order to build trust and improve community relations. And then the third and fourth recommendations are connected, and that's to collect and analyze data involving discourtesy and disrespect complaints, and to review and evaluate the de-escalation practices. So as mentioned, that line of when behavior may be disrespectful or discourteous isn't clear, and we understand that that's subjective, but it raises the question about the application of de-escalation practices when it comes to interacting with citizens. Something that we observed is that there are several officers who do an excellent job of speaking calmly and respectfully, considering the perspective and the emotions of those that they're talking to, modeling certain behavior, even in very stressful and high emotional situations. And so it's worth exploring how that can become the standard, and so that we can see that more consistently across the board. So with that concludes our report, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm sure commissioners have a thought or two. Commissioner Turner-Sloss, any questions?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Jones, for your presentation this evening. Just a question, and I'm just trying to make sure I'm following. So some of the observations there are aligned with the recommendations that you are making this evening. And I know one recommendation that you made prior to, during your initial presentation was that the process itself was not, wasn't easily to locate, if you will, or was it easily to navigate through?
So it's easy to be able to submit a complaint, but because of the communication that citizens are receiving, I think there's an opportunity to set better expectations as to what can take place in an appeal. So if someone is coming in thinking that, oh, this is a bad practice, that will not be resolved through this process. So they may feel disappointed because they thought something was going to take place that actually cannot take place through the current process.
Thank you. The only thing that I would add, Mayor, is that like once these recommendations have been vetted through the entire commission, like what are the next steps? And if we are going to move forward, then I don't know if that charge leads with Ms. Jackson in HRC or what the next steps are in terms of if in fact we are in agreement with accepting the recommendations based off the observations that were made by Ms. Jones.
That would go to, first of all, Mr. Joseph, since he was the chair of that committee, and then we'll come to us.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I would appreciate that. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Ms. Jones.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Fairchild.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I got half of the report, and this is what we imagined when we put the IA in place. And so this is very reassuring that we're starting to get to fulfill the recommendation. And I appreciate you recognizing that our officers in most of their interactions are courteous and respectful and do a great job. And that's kind of what we knew. And I appreciate you looking for those places where we can have improvement, which was the intent of the recommendation. So thank you for this work and look forward to seeing this move forward.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay, Commissioner Shaw.
totally agree with that. I was really excited to hear that. I mean, these are kind of the expectations that we had going into this. We've got good police officers. And I guess what I'm interested in hearing you expand upon is the perception that the complainants have with the process. I mean, this is painting with a broad brush, but generally, how do you feel about how they feel about the process is really what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I have attended 3 CAB hearings, and what's interesting, I'm observing, and I can see, coming in, it takes a lot of courage to speak in front of a room about your experience.
Absolutely.
And so when you were met with, well, there was no policy violation, even though it was a traumatic experience, what I'm seeing is, so then what was the point of this? And so I think there's a missed opportunity there where it may not be the formal appeal process, but maybe more of a restorative justice circle or something where it can be a conversation of we hear you and we understand. And that's unfortunate that this happened. That was not the intention. But just something so that it's more of a restorative process and not just a procedural process.
Yeah, so I saw that there were 1, maybe 2 that went to mediation? That of the complaints that went to mediation to kind of...
Appeals or?
No, the mediation center, that I guess the complainant and the officer must have gone to mediation. You listed that. You said there's at least 1 that went to mediation as a.
Oh, so, I mean, several go to mediation, but do you mean like from the beginning or after an appeal?
Well, whatever, in order to reach resolution, I'm not sure what the number was, but there was a number of them that went to mediation and then was resolved through that process. Is that accurate?
I'm not sure about the mediation data at this point.
Okay.
But I do know that some complaints are referred to mediation.
Well, what I would like to do is dig a little deeper on that piece of it, because I'm interested in, number one, the effectiveness of the mediation center and that whole process in this process, but also then the results and just how people feel about resolving the issue through mediation. I mean, I think it's one of the great resources that we have, and one of the processes that kind of arose from the police reform. I'm just interested in digging a little deeper on that. So we'll have conversations about that. We don't have to deal with that right now.
Yep.
But thank you for the work. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Okay, good, Mr. Joseph.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, thank you very much. Just like Commissioner said a moment ago, this is the vision we had for your jobs. You're doing an excellent job. These are the kind of statistics we wanted. This is the overview we wanted. You're playing the role that we envisioned for the IAA. So thank you to you and your colleagues.
Thank you.
I do have a couple things I wanted to mention, though. If we could go to the slide, citizen-generated complaints over time. It was your probably 6th or 7th slide. Now, Mayor, we talk a lot about how we don't celebrate our successes as nearly as well as we should.
Correct.
So we're going to look at this slide carefully. So we put this process into place. I co-chaired the Oversight Committee with Brandon McLean, Mr. McLean, of course. And one of the things we heard from residents was that the complaint process was hard to access, difficult to understand, and they didn't get the kind of feedback that they expected, the kind of responses. So we worked really hard to make sure that the complaint process was very accessible, that people could go online, they could talk to any one of, many entry points, anybody would point them to the same place to access the system to make a complaint. If they didn't know how to use it, somebody would teach them. If they had trouble, they could submit a written complaint. So we made it a lot easier to make complaints when they happen and if they happen. So what we saw was that was successful, and we saw the number of complaints go up, as we expected, because before it was harder to submit complaints. You can see in 2021, 2022, and 2023, the number of complaints increased, which is usually not good, but for us, it's a little bit encouraging because it means people are accessing the system. What we hoped would happen is that it would reach a peak, people would access the system, and we would be improving along the way our processes and procedures, getting used to taking care of these difficulties, and it happened. You can see the numbers there go down. I couldn't have dreamt it any better. While not perfect, every one of those is a failure of some sort, right, of communication or something. But the fact that they're going down and going down so drastically, I'm very proud of the work of this commission, the work of all our partners in the community, the work of the administration, the work of police. And I love this. I love this slide. Let's keep it going down. So that's my first comment. The second one is if you could go to 2024 complaint receipts, please. It's another 10 or 12 slides in, I think. Now this one, you mentioned that in your, I guess, the third bullet down, that of the complaint receipts, 3 were probably not put in the right basket to start with. And that was a difficulty that we had as part of the Oversight Committee, is who makes that first determination? You know, we want to make sure that these things are going into the right place. If it needs to be investigated further, that it goes that way, that it's in the right basket. If it's something that can be resolved quickly, as many are and should be, it goes in the right basket. So you mentioned that 3 out of 95, which is not bad, you know, it's not a bad percentage. Can you tell me, maybe you don't know, and you can tell me later, but what is the current process for reviewing those and where they're going? We talked about that quite a bit as part of the Oversight Committee, but if you could maybe look into who determines it, and as a first pass, when something comes in, which basket do those complaints go into? And second, is there a second pass? Like as the complaints are initially investigated or the next person looks at them, is there someone else doing a quick review to say, yep, confirmed, this is in the right basket, this is in the right path for investigation? And I don't know the answer to that, and it's been a couple years since I was deep into it, but I'd like to find that out if possible. So that was the second thing.
I believe in most instances it is the officer that's the allegation is against, their immediate supervisor.
I see. I wonder if it might be a good idea, and this is something, Commissioner, that we can talk about, or Commission, that might be good to have somebody else look at that as a second pass along the process. I got to make a note to myself, we'll look at that.
Oh.
The chief knows.
Yeah. So ultimately, all those complaints go to PSB, who reviews them to make sure that they're following protocol. So the 3 cases they have, I know we talked to, right before that, I want to know what those are and who reviewed them, because all of those complaints are reviewed by PSB to make sure they're put in the right basket. If they were not, then they can go back and say, nope, this needs to be investigated.
Great,
So
thank you.
it's not really just a supervisor. They might determine this is complaint receipt, but they don't ultimately decide that it's going to stay in that basket. It needs to be reviewed and is reviewed in the system that we have, which is our Professional Standards Bureau. It goes to that lieutenant.
Great, that's the answer I wanted. Thank you, Chief. And the last is to your observations page and then to your recommendations, which are excellent, like really very good. I wanted to say that as we move forward with your recommendations, the intent of the committee, when you're talking about discretionary acts that are permissible but may still cause harm, we had a number of committee members, particularly Tom Walrab and a couple others, if you know Tom, who were insistent that we needed to include language in the legislation that gave you and gave our complaint investigators and the CAB broad leeway in saying this is not against the rules, but it's still bad. And we want to acknowledge that this sort of activity is something that we need to look into. We need to quantify where possible and to answer, all right? Set guidance as well as we can for our staff and for everyone else. So I really appreciate that you're pointing out that as something we need to highlight. And I look forward to working on sort of refining the process to get at that. I think that's a very good observation. I'm glad you brought it up. And the last thing I want to talk about is you talked about making sure that the folks who are making complaints or making appeals have a reasonable expectation of what might happen out of that process. It's very important. Our original view from the committee was that the mediation center would play a role in that there would be somebody available to communicate with them, not only about expectations for where the process would lead them, but also about what's going on currently in the process. That was a complaint that we heard from so many people who'd made complaints that, they didn't hear in a timely manner, or they had to call a lot of times to get an answer about where their case was in the process. So it sounds like we might need to beef up that piece of it, like that piece of the process, to make sure that that human contact is there, that there's a back and forth, like I say, not only about level setting expectations about what could happen, but also about status and that sort of thing too. You talked about tone of letters, very important. And I think that's another excellent recommendation. And last point I want to make is actually on your recommendation page. And I think another committee looked at de-escalation techniques. So that might be a chance to re-engage with police over how that overlap happens. Like you say, taking best practices from the ones who are doing it the best. I love that idea. So I talked a lot. I apologize. I don't always talk a lot, but this one I love. I'm really glad to see it in action. It's amazing to see a policy that we worked on so hard be put in place and actually work. So thank you for your work. Thank you for this report. A really excellent job.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You touched on a lot of points that I was going to raise. So the only one that's left for me, Commissioners, thank you so much, is the aspect of de-escalation training.
Yeah.
What's your best indicator of the de-escalation training that we're going through as one of our policies? That came out of my committee. I think it went to the training committee, if I'm not mistaken, to do more training relative to how our officers could be more engaging in terms of how they could de-escalate a situation to keep it from rising to a level that would cause violence or injury or harm in some way.
I think we're still at the stage of looking at what is going on, still fact gathering. This was still very preliminary just from watching some of the body cam footage, but I haven't compiled enough data at this point to see if there are like consistent patterns yet. So until we compile the data and analyze the data, I think it's difficult to say like what may need to be adjusted specifically.
Yeah. Because as I look at some of the complaints that are, again, going in the right direction, meaning down, the aspect of us thinking that part of this is because of so much of a focus on de-escalation and find better ways to have our officers address the situation and keep it from moving, again, to the next level. So just what we can do to find a better way of showing that, we'd be very much interested in that.
That will be a priority.
Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Okay. So, Ms. Blackshear, calendar items as far as additional deletions or comments, reductions, or comments associated with the calendar?
I have none, Your Honor.
Have none? Ms. Dixon, any additions, deletions, or comments to the calendar?
Your Honor, this evening I have no additions or deletions to the calendar. I do have a couple of items I'd like to highlight. One, item number 2 is a service agreement with Broombraw Construction. This is a contract modification as we continue to complete the West Pod Police Station in West Dayton. This is brought to you by Dayton Recovery Plan. We are excited to see some of this work happening because it lays the groundwork for attracting future investment and development with the infrastructure and some of the changes. So we're excited to bring forward this amendment that takes us to a $10+ million investment right now in West Dayton.
Okay.
Item E9 is a contribution as a result of a negotiation for a legal settlement with Dayton Power and Light, also doing business as AES Corporation. The results of the legal settlement reduced residential charge from $22 to $9.75. It also obtained $1 million to assist with bill payments for residents. We also eliminated reconnection fees for all residential consumers, which is a barrier, particularly for our low-income residents. And then finally, there was a commitment to extend the Disadvantaged Community Energy Initiative in the next rate case, which is the program we got $7.8 million previously for, to go into housing rehab, and we talked about that later. So we're excited about this settlement and what we were able to do for the community and bring to the community. And that's all I have.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So, Ms. Blackshear, do we have any citizens who are wishing to speak on city manager recommendations?
None on calendar items, Your Honor.
Okay. Commissioners, your questions and thoughts on city manager recommendations. Commissioner Turner-Sloss?
Yes, very briefly. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Dickstein. I just would like to uplift the work of Meg Maloney as well as the entire staff, the sustainability office staff, and as well as our law department. So thank you, Ms. Dickstein, for bringing that forward, and congratulations to our sustainability office for the great work there. The question that I have, and remind me again, I know we touched on it, but the $7 million, I know that we're using that. Has it already been identified as to what vendor it will go to in terms of like our partners? Will it go to the network itself for those rehabs that you have identified or that will be identified, or the universal?
This is a 3-year program. It has not been all allocated. In fact, this fall is where the network will have an opportunity to apply for funding.
Okay, so it will be applied through funding, okay. And this fall, can we just have the details on that once they're fleshed out? Okay, thank you. And what was the dollar amount? Is it the 7 or 9? What was it?
7.8 million was the total.
Very good.
Some of that has already gone to Dern for administration and capacity building, but.
Okay. And then the final question that I have on that, so I know that we were the only municipality at the table during these negotiations and these talks, but does that also include other municipalities that will, because of our work, because of our leadership and us being at the table, will other municipalities benefit from the work that we were able to do on this piece?
I believe that, we're the only municipality, we're often the only municipality, primarily because we fight for our residents, our low-income residents particularly. This is a rate that is applied across the board to PUCO, from PUCO. So they get, we argue and negotiate, but it benefits everyone.
Very good. That's what I thought. Okay, very good. So we're showing the collaboration and the collective spirit of us being the leader in the region and showing that partnership. So again, kudos to our sustainability office. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Fairchild?
Yeah, with the Brumball contract, have we gotten the master plan from the Dillon Group for the Wright factory site?
No, we have a conceptual plan, but we are in the midst of the structural analysis for the Wright factory site to see if we can reuse it or if it has to be taken down and replicated, et cetera. So the master planning work has been paused until we get through details on that.
What's the timeline for that structure report? Because it seemed like they've been working at that for quite a while.
Well, there was a great delay in that because of vendor availability, because of all of the construction going on. So it should be wrapped up by November, because it has been just underway for a couple of weeks now, and it was about a 90-day completion, 90 to 120 day.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Shaw.
Yeah, so back to the AES settlement. You mentioned that there were some accommodations that were made through the settlement for residential customers. Does that also go to small business customers?
So
For like reconnection, waiving the reconnection fees and that kind of thing?
I'm not sure about that. Normally, when we will negotiate if the small businesses are getting hit with a rate, right? So we have in the past negotiated to bring down costs for businesses. I'm not sure about whether or not the reconnection is only to residential customers or if it's to business customers. Residential? All right. It was called out as just residential, but we can follow up and.
If you could, I mean, that's, small businesses get hit with extraordinary fees, even over and above what the residents get. So I would really like to hear about that. And it's, I'm not necessarily talking about large businesses small businesses, 500 employees or more, but I'm talking about really micro businesses. Because, for obvious reasons.
I will clarify, we'll clarify with that, but then we'll also make a note of that for, the next rate case.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Joseph.
Nothing today, thank you.
Okay, I'm good. Thank you so much.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay, may I have a motion then to approve the city manager's recommendations?
Your Honor, I move to approve city manager's recommendations.
And I'll second that.
Okay, it's been probably moved and seconded to approve the city manager's recommendations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Okay, legislation, please, Ms. Blackshear.
Second reading resolution number 6884-25, authorizing the city manager to accept federal fiscal year 2026 Federal Aviation Administration Airport Terminal Program, ATP grant from the United States Department of Transportation for airport infrastructure and terminal improvements at the James M. Cox Dayton International Airport and Dayton Wright Brothers Airport on behalf of the city of Dayton in an amount not to exceed $15 million and 0 cents. Mayor Mims.
Aye.
Commissioner Joseph.
Aye.
Shaw.
Aye.
Fairchild.
Aye.
Turner-Sloss.
Aye.
First reading resolution number 6886-25, declaring the intention to appropriate real property interests in parcels 94T and 127T in connection with the Salem Avenue Reconstruction Phase 4 project. That concludes legislation.
Okay. Ms. Blackshear, do we have any citizens who are registered to speak?
3 citizens have registered.
Okay.
I would like to state that there is a 3-minute time limit. As you address the commission, we ask that you state your name and address for the record. At that time, I will turn on the green light. When the green light comes on, you will have 3 minutes to speak. After you have spoken 2.5 minutes, a yellow light will come on. You will have 30 seconds remaining to speak. When the red light comes on, you will be asked to cease your comments and to take your seat. To the audience in attendance, please be mindful this is a business meeting, and we kindly request that during this portion of the meeting, you refrain from any hand clapping, finger snapping, and conversations that will prevent the City Commission from hearing the speaker's comments. I call to the podium Kevin Keller.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Kevin Keller, 3922 East Street, Dayton, Ohio.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, and audience, City Manager. What I have to say today is mostly about public roads. It seems to have been a decrease in a lot of the roads around town, and I specifically remember on a newscast, don't remember which company it did, but they were talking about repaving a good section of Smithville Road north of 35, somewhere around Huffman Street, all the way to Radio Road, or just short of that. That's a real problem. A lot of potholes, a lot of uneven pavement, a lot of dips because the trucks sit there without the lights, and it's become pretty dangerous. And I'm just dreading this winter by getting stuck in one of those or sliding off in one of those pieces of pavement. It's become a really mess, and I remember they were talking about that's part of the paving program this year, discussed last year. Also, the red light speed cameras, I'm told that they might be coming back. And is there any kind of justification? Or I was told that in order to have those things work, a police officer has to be present. The third is vehicle side swipes on narrow roads. We live on a narrow, we park on a narrow road, which is Quinton, Cherrywood, and I don't remember that other road, but it's up just west of Smithville on East 3rd Street in Smithville. Those streets are so narrow, and when cars go by, especially when they exceed the speed limit, sideswiping. Like I said last meeting, my wife and I had our cars sideswiped. I've had mine done twice just by parking in the street. So some people are parking up on the curb or lit on the grass to try to avoid that. All kinds of people are speeding, not only cars, residential cars, but like FedEx and UPS drivers, the mail carriers, city vehicles that are much wider than an average car. And I'm not sure if they really realize how narrow those roads are. I really wish we could look at that and find some kind of solution. Fourth, we have paving over curbs. When they pave and they don't grade enough off those curbs, it raises the pavement and the curbs almost disappears. When we have a good rain, it floods the yards and it floods the roads because the water doesn't have anywhere to go except into the road, and eventually it goes to the drain, but a lot of it doesn't go to the drain because of how the pavement is designed. It's not crowned as much. And because I live on a corner and on a hill, East 3rd Street at Quinton, that I know is pretty much a river during heavy rain, and that's not safe, especially if we're driving down that hill. And restoring the diner building, I hear that there's talk of restoring the diner building. We all called it the diner at 5th Street and was it Patterson Boulevard or St. Clair? I would love to see ideas on that.
Comments.
Thank you. So we'll have someone get your concerns and address those.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keller.
Christine Lincoln.
Hi, my name is Christine Lincoln,
Hi.
Name and address for the record.
1000 Birch Street, Springfield, Ohio.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners and City Manager. Thank you for giving me this moment. It means a lot. It means the world to me to stand here before you tonight. At the start of these many meetings, you pray, asking God to bless your work and to guide your steps and to help you serve this community. I'm here tonight with an opportunity for you to do just that. On February 1st, early in the morning in 818 Rosedale, I was brutally attacked. I was strangled, bitten, and raped for 30 minutes. I fought like hell to survive because the only thought in my mind was that my babies were going to come home to their mom today. I refused to let this man take me from them. When I escaped and found a phone because he had taken mine, the very first thing I did was call the police. Surely I thought that justice would come quickly, but instead, that was the moment that I began to feel dismissed, stereotyped, and judged. When officers arrived, they could see my injuries, they could see that I was missing clothes. I was taken to the hospital, and first time I felt hope, surely that they would arrest him, surely that they would recover my phone, and surely that justice would be served. The same nurse gave me strength, reminding me that even the smallest trace of DNA could put an attacker away. But when the lieutenant came to see me at the hospital, what I received was not compassion, it was irritation. He showed no empathy, no urgency. Even the nurse was stunned by his demeanor. When I asked about my phone, he told me they hadn't gone into the house to retrieve it, speaking as if I were the inconvenience, as if my pain were an interruption. In that moment, I felt my fight slipping away. The nurse reassured me that the detectives would be different, that they would pursue justice, but months have gone by. Evidence was ignored. Calls and emails have gone unanswered, and eventually I was told the DNA was not enough, and my case would be closed. I cannot accept this. I know there was enough evidence to move forward, and I know I am not the only woman that this man has hurt at 818 Rosedale. Many won't even report because they don't believe the police will listen, and from my experience, I understand why. I do respect the police. I know the burden that they carry each day, but I also know this: when officers and detectives lose empathy for the people they serve, when they dismiss survivors like me, they fail in their duty. The lieutenant and detective treated me as if my pain did not matter, and I believe that this man will kill someone if he hasn't already. And I cannot stay silent while this possibility exists. I will not go away. I will not be quiet or to stop demanding justice until this man is arrested and held accountable. I matter, my children matter, and every woman in this community matters. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Would you thank you for your comments. Would you please, Ms. Jackson, get additional information from you?
Okay.
Thank you.
Wait, right here?
Just right there, behind you. I'm sorry.
Ray Hollingsworth.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Ray Hollingsworth, 4438 Hoover Avenue, Dayton, Ohio. I am here on behalf of the citizens that live near and on Cornell Drive. The burnt down store that burned down to the ground in March of this year is still sitting there. And we were told that there was going to be some contractors to get that mess up 2 months ago. We've seen no contractors.
Yeah.
We're not sure if they're really contractors. And now that you all have put dumpsters there for the rubbish, burned up things that people have put mattresses, couches, and now there's trash bags, tires, etc. It's become a dumping ground. It's beginning to smell. It's been smelling. And I go in that area often because I have a person that helps me at times. And I know residents that still live in that area. And we have to look at that mess where the city of Dayton seems like you guys lied. Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure if you realize it or not, but you're the mayor of all of Dayton. That mess should have been up. And we're not really sure if the contractors are contractors. Because when you have a contractor, that means there's a contract. And I'm not sure why out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, you all don't remind each other, we need to get that mess up. I grew up in that area in the 70s and 80s. I grew up not far from Commissioner Shaw. And about over a little bit more than 30 years ago, I moved into Residence Park. What is going on? Why is that mess still down there? You put a fence up there, and then you put some type of tarp up there when the NATO was coming, as if, well, if we bring NATO down here, we don't want them to see that mess. There's a porta potty in there, and I saw someone who didn't look like a contractor to me coming out of that porta potty. What is going on? It seems like a great big disrespect, betrayal. When is that mess going to get up? We're going to give you all till Monday, 5 o'clock, to have that mess cleared up. You have contractors, get them on the job. And if it's not up by 5 o'clock Monday, the people I talk to, the residents, there's beautiful homes across the street from there. We're going to take this thing to another level. We hate to have to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Hollywood.
Thank you for your comments, Mrs. Hollywood.
That concludes the speakers, Your Honor.
It's pretty good over there to me.
Okay. Ms. 16, closing comments.
Just a couple, Your Honor. I wanted to remind everyone that the city is looking at red light speed cameras in school zones, which is trying to slow traffic down where a great deal of children are present, and we clearly do not need police based on the state law to be there. So that is with regards to that. The Smithville repaving is happening over 26, 27, and 28 because it is built. It's also incorporating reconstruction. And so those, as you know, that funding comes in 5-year, with 5-year tails. With regards to the demolition occurring at Cornell, I'll remind everyone that's a private demolition, that we have been, there have been numerous violations cited for the contractor that the property owner has contracted with. RAPCA is also, which is a regional area air pollution control authority. They are working on also enforcement because of the extent of violations. So we are pursuing without any grace, trying to get this mess addressed and out of our neighborhood, and that's where it sits right now. And that's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay. So additionally, let me just pose a bit of a question regarding that. I know we've had multiple conversations and there have been multiple situations in court, in and out of court, initially by us, of course. And the aspect of looking at someone who had insurance, who said they didn't have insurance, so we went back and forth with that. So the owner of that property does have insurance. The owner of that property had the responsibility of hiring and consulting with the contractor to work on cleaning that up. We did assist in some way, shape, or form to expedite the process, and we communicate those actions, if you will, to the community as well. But I'm not sure of the latest, because I thought we were in a situation right now where the contractor and the owner were following through on the process of taking care of that.
They had started, and then there was a pause. And prior to the start, remember, we put the fence up to try and curb dumping and try to, contain the site. Because once something happens with once somebody puts something in there, it has to be treated like contamination. Mm-hmm. The second thing is, so when the pause happened and there was no response to us as to why the pause had happened, that's when we started citing and...
That's additional. That's the second time. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because ultimately, yes, the property owner is responsible for cleaning up doing the demolition.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay. Ms. Blackshear, any closing comments?
I have none, Your Honor.
Okay. Commissioners, closing comments. Commissioner Turner-Sloss.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Dickstein, for providing additional context as it relates to the red light cameras. And then also, to your point, I believe it was last week, if not last week, the week before last, we just approved an agreement to do additional work for a vendor to look at the compliance piece as it relates to the red light cameras. And not to say that we were not in compliance, but this is some additional work that is being done to make sure that we are in compliance and that these red light street cameras, if you will, are being utilized effectively. And then in regards to the narrow streets, from Mr. Keller's point, thank you, Mr. Keller, for being here this evening. I believe at one point, and I know Mr. Keller has raised this a number of times, as well as many other residents who reside in those areas where the streets are in fact narrow. Have we vetted the idea of a traffic study, or if in fact there's something additional that can be done to help with understanding that the streets are narrow, but is it a matter of us taking from the sidewalk, or what other, with our traffic engineering or surveying that could potentially be done to look at ways to mitigate?
As you know, Commissioner, we have narrow streets across the city
Right.
in much of the built-out neighborhoods. And there has been numerous looks at how do we address this? Do we restrict parking? There's not enough parking, because of the lack of garages and the lack of, and it is something the staff continuously look at for best practices to try and see if there's resolution. There is no easy answer at this point to dealing with if you reduce the sidewalk, many of the sidewalks are narrow to start. They're not very expansive. And if you take sidewalk away, then you have ADA issues because you don't have, you create accessibility issues in that regard. So there has been multiple looks at how we might try and address something, as well as talking to other cities with similar situations. And there has not been an easy solve at this point.
No, that's fair. Thank you. And I know that you all are doing your due diligence, if you will, or and trying to find ways and means to address the concern. One recommendation that I do have, and I don't know if this is the case, Mr. Keller Street in particular, but oftentimes we have throughout our neighborhoods, the 65 neighborhoods, in particular, I will speak to Westwood, Residence Park, Southern Dayton View Triangle. Many of those neighborhoods, there is an influx of inoperable vehicles that are taking up off-street parking, if you will, with expired tags, whatever have you. So is it a matter of us going through and doing a blitz or a review to see, with warnings, of course, right? We don't want to start towing vehicles away and then we have another, situation where there are a cost burden or another hindrance on our residents, but looking at ways and means to address those issues of those inoperable vehicles or vehicles that do not have up-to-date tags or stickers, to remove them off of the street itself, because they reduce the number of parking spaces that are in fact available. So I don't know if that's the case for you, Mr. Keller, but it might be something for us to look at overall.
Commissioner, we have a unit that for the last year been working aggressively to take cars inoperable or storage, that has occurred in neighborhoods, and they have been aggressively sweeping and reducing those numbers. And I'm happy to get you a report on the outcomes of that group, because they are working feverishly, catching up and getting people in compliance.
Yeah, no, thank you. You're absolutely correct, and that raises another point. So in Belmont Park, I know we're getting ready for the Greek festival, if you will. I would just ask that we please make sure that we issue out warnings, because some vehicles were towed and there was no notice. So we just need to make sure that we are, in fact, providing that level of courtesy, understanding that this was the direction of the commission and that we are trying to mitigate a number of the concerns, but making sure that we're doing our due diligence and providing the level of courtesy to give the residents or the vehicle owners enough time to remove those vehicles. So I appreciate it. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Keller, for being here this evening. Ms. Lincoln, thank you for being here and for your bravery. Ms. Jackson, I understand you have our contact information, so I will be following up with Ms. Lincoln this evening. But I do want to acknowledge her bravery and the unfortunate incident that took place. And my goal and I believe all of our duty is to make sure that our residents feel safe and they are in fact protected throughout our neighborhoods. And I would just like to get an update on, because if I'm not mistaken, I do remember this case in particular. And so I would just ask if we could get an update, Ms. Dixteen, as to where we are in the investigation, understanding that I know a lot of the information may not be able to be disclosed to us, but to make sure that Ms. Lincoln has the assistance and support that is needed. And I think this also goes back to our report, the accountability report that we just received this evening from Ms. Jones, and having that process in place where people feel that they are in fact heard and that they understand what the next steps are in that process. So I look forward to working with you, Commissioner, on that. So Ms. Dixon, if you could provide us with a follow-up on that. Mr. Hollingsworth, thank you for bringing this to our attention. I know my colleagues and I will be the first to admit, I was under the impression that this was addressed. And as you heard from Ms. Dixon, this is a private demolition or removal, and initially we did take the steps, the city did take the steps with the fencing and really pushing forward to make sure that the site itself was demolished and removed, but there is additional work that needs to be done. Know that it is in fact a priority and that it will be cleaned up. So I don't know if there is another course of action that needs to be had, and to your point, right, giving us 5 days, well, perhaps we need to extend those days to the private owner to make sure that they are held accountable for removing the debris itself. So I would just ask Ms. Dixon, if I know once you have that information readily available, if you can pass that on to us, and if in fact there are any stipulations that have been identified in the removal of the site itself, and is there additional incurred costs that the property owner will incur with the debris continuously still sitting there. And last thing that I wanted to make mention, there were a number of events that took place this past weekend, a number of back-to-school events, one in particular in McIntosh Park, which was well-attended. There was also, I believe, a 3-on-3 tournament, number of events that took place. And thank you, Ms. Reed, for providing talking points in the Recreation Department. The after-school recess program is now open. This is great work, once again, by our Recreation Department. The program follows Dayton Public Schools calendar and is available at all 3 recreation centers. The sessions run Monday through Friday, 2:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. and include homework support, arts and crafts, physical activity and games, and a daily snack. Register at the DaytonRec.com website or by calling your preferred recreation center. And this is free of charge, I assume? This is great work, so kudos to our Recreation Department. And I believe that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Fairchild.
No comments.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Shaw.
All right, quickly. Well, I'll start here. So just a couple of announcements. Launch Dayton Startup Week. Launch Dayton Startup Week runs September 10th through the 12th at the Dayton Arcade and the Hub. This free event offers workshops, talks, and networking for small business owners and entrepreneurs. You can learn more at launchdayton.com. Also, the Recreation Department is offering Rec Connect, a free program for kids 8 to 12 at the Greater Dayton Rec Center. Each event features movies, crafts, and games that help kids build friendships and connect with their community. Upcoming dates, September 9th, October 14th, and November 11th from 6 to 8 p.m. And you can learn more with the City of Dayton Recreation Department. I want to respond about the Cornell Market. I rode past there. I really, too, thought that it was being addressed in a meaningful way, because it was. I mean, they removed a lot of the debris that was blowing, and I think that was a big issue, Raynard, for the neighbors around there. Many of them I've talked to personally as well. If you've got a porta toilet on site, that means that there are contractors working on that, because by state law you have to have them, and I think that's what was happening there. But yeah, I'm really concerned about this pause, and I appreciate you, City Manager, and your staff, that they are addressing this and citing them where appropriate. Again, it is private property. We don't control that. We can't go on that property in a meaningful way to do the work ourselves, so we're kind of stuck with what we've got there. But I agree with you. I mean, it's an eyesore, and it's something, again, we both grew up in that neighborhood. And, so I pay a lot of close attention to that, and I want to see it get cleaned up as well. But I think we'll get there. I do want to take a point of privilege real quick. If we can ask Jagger Belcher to come to the podium for just a moment. Yeah. I know this is embarrassing, but that's kind of what you sign up for. Yeah. Yep. Jagger has been with us for a little over a year, one of the legislative aides, and I just want to wish him farewell on his journey as he moves on from us. Friday is his last day with us on this commission. And I just want to tell you how much of a privilege it has been working with you over this past year or so. You've made a great impact on this commission and on this community. And I just want to thank you for your service and wish you well. I don't know if you have a few remarks or if the commission wants to say something.
Yeah, we'll say something first, then you can say something. And then we'll say something again if we want. But I teased him earlier today, told him that there was some executive order from the highest office in the land that would prohibit him from leaving us.
Well, I researched that.
Okay, we'll try to do that.
Got a couple of days left.
Yeah, so we're working on trying to support that activity. But you have been a great addition to this city commission and to the city as a whole. There's so many things that you've done and so meaningful as far as citizens are concerned, supporting each and every one of us in all the things that we do, trying to make sure our citizens were receiving the best service that we can give them. So, again, thank you. Yeah. Commissioners, in any order. Okay?
Thank you. Thank
Yes,
you,
ma'am.
Mayor. I'm very excited for you and your new endeavor. Thank you so much. You've been a great addition to the commission office, and I know that you're going to do great. And again, just know that if you ever have to reach back, know that we're here to support you. And again, I wish you all the best. You've been great to work with.
You've done a great job. We know you're going to do a great job at your next job. Thank you, like the commissioner said and the mayor, thank you for things you've done for our citizens, for us. You've been a good worker, and you can be proud of that.
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Fairchild.
Yeah, just echo what my colleagues have said. You're a very conscientious worker, and appreciate your attention to details and following through, and also the interactions you have with our citizens. I think you demonstrate you're a role model for how we want our employees to work with our citizens, and you should be like the poster boy for having a positive attitude. I'm not in there every day, but of all the days I saw you, I've never seen you had a negative attitude, and that's commendable. So keep that up as you go into your next work, and we know you'll do well.
Yeah. Okay. Congratulations. Do you have any?
Yeah.
You're gonna.
Yeah. So if your next employer has any doubt, you just take a copy of this film and just share with them all the great things that we said about you. Okay.
Well, it's been an honor to work with all of you, and it means a lot to me that you guys have had these remarks. So thank you guys a lot.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
And that's all I have.
Right here? Okay. Thanks a lot. Commissioner Joseph.
All right. I want to, first of all, recognize Sinclair Public Policy class that's here, Ms. Kiana Daniels' class. If you would like to stand up and at least wave to the crowd and get recognized. Thank you for being here. All right.
Okay.
Great. We appreciate you all being here. We'd love to have an audience, and especially folks who are interested in public policy. That's the lifeblood of the city. It's what we do and what we love. We're glad to see you're interested in it, too. So thank you for being here, you all.
Thank you.
Yeah. Also, I want to mention this is Vascular Disease Awareness Month, September. One of the best ways to prevent vascular diseases through regular cardiovascular activity. Many City of Dayton employees this month are committed to 10,000 steps a day to try to combat cardiovascular disease and keep healthy hearts going. I'm going to try to get to 10,000, but I know it's not going to happen. I'm going to try anyway. Just not enough time in the day. I know that's a terrible excuse. But I appreciate all the employees who are doing that, and those of you out there, you're welcome to join us, 10,000 steps a day. Second, the African American Wellness Walk returns for its 25th year, coming up September 13th, next Saturday. It's 5K walk run, starting at Island Metro Park and ending at 8 a.m. You can register on Premier Health's website. You can go to premierhealth.com, and there'll be a link there to register for the African American Wellness Walk. That's all I got, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Got a few things. Let's do the one that I forgot to do last month, and that was the Black Babies Breastfeeding Month. I was there a whole month and had the opportunity to share with them some thoughts about the importance of that month, and talking about the aspect of the young people who are receiving breast milk from their mothers creates a much more healthier immune system for those young people as well. And so that addresses some of the needs that they have for nutrition in the earlier months and years of their life. So again, that just supports their benefit that they have, long-term benefit when they're breastfed. Additionally, the Ohio Families Talent Show and the Unification Against Police Brutality that was held, sponsored by Mr. Dion Green. And then the Westwood Days. In addition to Westwood Days and the celebration they had with great food and, again, a packed audience, also had 20 young people who were part of the Young Peace Ambassadors program. And they demonstrated a lot of the work that they're doing in that space to learn how to identify and resolve conflict. Additionally, we had the 11th annual Back to School block party that was held at the park, McIntosh Park. A lot of great food, as was mentioned before, and this was put on by Mr. Darrell Dalton. And lastly, the Men of Color Leadership Training Program this morning, as they're still there right now, we have the young men who are watching a Cincinnati Reds baseball game, about 300 of them, from cities such as Columbus, Cleveland, Lima, Springfield, Cincinnati, and of course the originator of the Men of Color program, Dayton, Ohio. So we had about 30 young men who left this morning going to the baseball game, but having opportunities to talk to some of the athletes, some of the stars who are involved in that process, as well as talking to some of the former athletes, those who attended college and played in those spaces as well. And also talking to them about the importance of budgeting and balancing their time and using all their God-given talents and skills to be their best self. And so all this was happening, still happening right now, as I mentioned before. And so while they're learning a lot, they will probably be real sleepy tonight, real sleepy tomorrow morning in school, because they will probably not get back home until about 10 or 11 o'clock tonight. So with that and no further business to come before this commission, love and peace for all and hatred for none, this meeting is adjourned.